Hey, welcome back to the channel, Our Heart Like Esther's. This is part 13 um, and a continuation from the last video. So, I wanted to start off by continuing from where I left off in the last video. Um, I was discussing like the root workers and the witches, how they engage in activities related to their wicked agendas, including the use of sex magic. And this is to harvest people's energy. Um, this is often carried out through sexual perversion, including rituals involving same sex encounters, um, orgies, and other forms of deviant sexual behavior rather than the typical sexual relationships. They do this to sacrifice individuals and drain their energy. This is how they steal from you your energy, your finances, your creativity, your ideas. This phenomenon is often referred to as energy vampirism. You know, have you ever known someone who seems sad or depressed or just lacking like a vibrancy when they come around you? Um, as soon as they spend time with you and it seems like they become energized and they're glowing up. Then once they leave, you feel drained and a bit down yourself. And that's what people often refer to as a energy vampire. Sometimes they might even call you with their problems or, you know, with these complaints, just like exhausting you. And just hearing about this stuff, it is exhausting. And, you can kind of relate this to like sex magic. And it's a, this type of magic is an amplified version of that, the energy vampirism. But it's on a whole different level. So it's just trying to paint a picture of the gentleman who kept trying to reconnect with me, my ex, who flew down. I don't know if I actually mentioned that, but the devil was using him, to try to create this soul tie. And, having sex with him, they would be able to attach themselves and harvest my energy because he was used, he was compromised. And to this day, I don't know whether he was sent, by the devil himself or I don't know. It's just very odd and strange, the whole encounter with him, It was just, yeah, I was taken aback about the whole ordeal. But I wanted to share my experience with the new job opportunity that I mentioned in the last video. I that I have recently accepted. Initially, this position was supposed to be remote. That's what I was, my intentions on just continue to work remotely because of, you know, my circumstances. I was unwell. I wasn't well enough I didn't feel well enough to be in somebody's office. But I quickly found myself flying back and forth frequently because this new job opportunity, as I mentioned in the other video, it was in the state that I had initially moved from. And I was a executive assistant to the CEO of this company. And she wanted me in the office all of the time, which was really frustrating because, yeah, I thought the travel would be manageable at first, just thinking about it. However, it just soon became very draining and exhausting, you know? And so, and I was in search of like a better work life balance, because of what all the things that I was going through. So I just decided to look for a place back in the state up north where I moved initially or no, originally moved from, that I had left 2 years earlier. I was just hoping that I'll be back closer to my son at this point. And unfortunately, that didn't work out, and things took an even stranger turn after I had only been at this job for about 3 months. On one occasion, I flew back home and I was teleworking for about 2 weeks. Or was it a week? I can't really remember. My lease was up at that place. I had been there for 2 years now, the one that I moved in um, during the pandemic. And so now we're in 2022 now, and the lease was up. I didn't want to sign a new one. I wanted to move. I didn't really want to be there anymore, and I didn't want to. That wasn't the place that I would have, chose if we were in a pandemic anyway. So I found myself paying an additional amount of rent because I was on a month to month agreement while still searching for a place and not knowing if I was going to go, stay up north or, what was going to happen. But I just wanted to be closer to that job because just the travel back and forth was just driving me nuts. I couldn't find anything immediately, especially in the borough or the area where I wanted to live. I wasn't used to moving like this, moving around. I was accustomed to being in one place for years, without shuffling around. Um, I just bought new furniture, in my current situation, the one bedroom, um, because I left prior to moving there. I stored everything else and just brought along with me just, the clothes for that season and the season that we were inching our way into. So that was spring and summer and a few of my devices. But I received a call from the guy, my ex, that um, was up north, and he mentioned that he would be coming down south on, for business and wanted to see me. Uh-huh. I remember in an earlier video that I mentioned that a few days before I left, I ran into him at the post office, and he was the one that helped me with the last of my heavy items, which I had arranged for a moving company, but to assist with, those items. But he eventually and a friend had just helped move that stuff out and save me a bit of money. But when he arrived within the next day, um, I just decided to meet up with him like at a restaurant, and something just kept nudging me not to let him in my house. Don't like let him know where I live for some odd reason. I don't know why I felt that way, but I just opted to meet him at the restaurant instead. So, and I was feeling guilty too. I don't know why I was feeling guilty, to not have him, because like a lot had transpired and I still wasn't comfortable, being around him long periods of time. So I just couldn't pinpoint why I felt guilty. But during lunch, I remember he kept hinting on like he was going to be in town for a few extra days. And he wanted, like, he was hinting on like staying with me. And yeah, no, I just, honestly told him that I didn't feel comfortable. And I was just going through a lot. And so I just wasn't up for any company at that time. Yeah. I had to kind of force myself to come and meet up with him. He wouldn't let up. And so when I mentioned that, his entire demeanor shifted. He seemed more angry than disappointed. And yeah, I reminded him that it wasn't a plan. He just called me out of the blue and said he would be. In fact, he was at the airport, I remember, and just suggested that we get together. And yeah, I wasn't up for that, but I had other things happening in my life that I didn't want to burden him with what was going on, or, I just wanted to keep it to myself. And I still had doubts about him due to what I had, or what I couldn't unsee. And I mentioned in the earlier video that like he did something happened where his face shape shift, and like something happened like in his sleep, like it was just weird and it creeped me out. So yeah, I didn't know whether the spirits or the demonic activity in my house affected him, or was he you know sent by the enemy to torment me further. I don't know, but I didn't want to find out. And I was already suffering enough. So yeah, I didn't know if he was the agent, and wrapped up in this matrix, or trying to keep me in the web of the matrix. But I remember after I got home, I felt like he projected his feelings onto me, because I was overwhelmed with like this unusual, like feeling of emotions while driving back home. And but it just, everything was just odd and strange. And this has to do with like that sex magic. Like, I believe, the energy, like whatever connected to him and was attached to him, kept trying to get me to, be romantic with him. And I wasn't feeling him like that anymore. But the very next week, I flew back up north for work. And now, like, the people in the office were acting strangely. Even my boss was acting strange. I felt like I was being sabotaged again, and that I was being set up to get fired, like in an instant. And I'm like, what? Like, this keeps happening. And keep in mind that I had just started. I had just completed like my 90-day probation period. So it's like, here we go again. I believed I was doing well. I knew my work and I felt great at what I did. But again, out of nowhere, I could see where this was heading. So I would rather resign than to be fired, because in the corporate world, it didn't look good. So I didn't want to have that on my record, you know. And so while they were plotting to get rid of me, I was planning my exit, before they could make the move. Thankfully, and by the grace of God, I always found work. My credentials were solid, not to toot my own horn, but eventually I discovered a reputable organization and with offices in like three different countries, and like, I think it was like six different states. And they had like ample resources and offered me an even higher, salary. And there was a new location opening in the same state, like in my hometown where I was currently living, which meant I wouldn't have to like pack my stuff up and move back up north because I didn't want to. I loved it, like the quality of life and being back, although I was going through, all the same things that I left, from up north. It just felt better there in a way, and now that I'm making like the money that I'm used to, I could find like the place that I like really desired at this time. So, like I mentioned, or I don't know if I did mention, the world had come out of the lockdown, and now we're in 2022. But everything felt different in like how things operated in across the United States now. So, but my ex, who had recently visited me, he began calling me frequently, especially like using FaceTime, which I found odd because he would never do that. And it always, every time I like was on the phone with him or got off, I it made me feel creepy. It was something just I couldn't touch. I couldn't put my finger on, but I just felt like something wasn't right. I just always got this uncomfortable feeling, like I don't know. It was just weird. I looked like I remember one time I was on one of those FaceTimes. That was the last time I spoke to him or spoke with him. I don't know how our eyes just met, and it's like it was just like I was like in some sort of trance, but I snapped out of it. It just freaked me out. But I never wanted to talk to him again. Like I just said, every time I connect with this guy, it's just something is weird is always happening, or something, awkward or uncomfortable feeling. So I just stopped answering his calls. But I remember praying after that, like, and asking God to just like heal my body and like save me from all the, the torment that I was always occurring in my life, and especially in the nighttime. And I remember falling, like I laid down on the couch and after that prayer, and I'm telling you, it wasn't even like a half an hour. Something kept nudging me, like to go to my closet, go to my closet and like get rid of, like, throw out a cooler. And this was like in the nighttime, like bedtime. And I didn't think that, I just thought it was my own thoughts. And it just kept nudging me in my head to, go take that cooler out of my, get it out of the closet and throw it away. And I'm like, why am I having this thought in my mind? And so I had forgotten all about that cooler. I had that cooler in my, I brought it with me from when on the drive to my hometown in 2020. And I just, yeah, I had this urge to throw it out. So I did. I got up and I slid on something and I took it out of the house because it kept like trying, whatever that feeling, that thought, that urge to get it out of the house, not throw it in the trash can, but throw it out. So that's exactly what I did. And I didn't realize at the time, just like that mirror that I spoke about in previous videos I brought with me, that they were a point of contact for the demons to connect with me. And the spirits that had been in that old apartment were attached to these items. And after that last call from him, um, I remember too, like I was wearing like a nightgown, and I didn't have any. I had this throw on the couch that I slid over me, but um, I don't know. Maybe it came off. You know how you sleeping at night and rolling around and the covers on and off, and suddenly I felt something trying to felt like like I dozed off, like something had poked me, like trying to have sex with me. And like it was just weird, and I jumped up out of like I was just sitting there in disbelief, like, did that just happen? Like, you know, I was in terror, thinking to myself, like, what just happened? And I remember that incident that occurred with my ex in my old apartment. That I was mentioning that one night he was, talking romantically in his sleep, a little bit of moaning, and I turned over slowly and just to see it, I noticed that half of his body was off the bed as if something invisible was holding him, but like having sex with him to the point where, like, I don't know, it just freaked me out. Like he was getting raped. I can't say the word, but you get my drift. And that's the very next day when he took me to work. um, like his face shape shift, like the eyes, his came all around his like it's just weird. I can't even explain it, but it was really frightening, and it's something that I will never be able to get out of my mind. Um, and that's when I decided to stop seeing him. You know, I ran into him a year and a half later at the post office, just days before I was set to leave the state. And I I just felt increasingly anxious now about leaving this apartment, and not realizing that no matter where I move, these witches had connected themselves to me in some way to keep tormenting me and attempt to swap my destiny and to cause premature death. Figuring I would go insane or I would give up and just, lose it all. I remember that my one time my mailbox had been broken into and someone had been rummaging through my garbage at night up north before, like before I left. Typically we sit our garbage out on specific days at the curb. And I always notice on my way to work that my garbage had been disturbed. So um, the Lord had revealed to me later on that these people were, taking my belongings. But I'm going to stop right here because it's going to cut off. And please tune in to the next video so I can continue on because it still gets crazier. Okay, thank you kindly for joining again.